The village of Mbale was known for its bustling market, fertile land, and the grand river Nika that snaked through its heart. The river was the source of life, a sacred force that connected the people to their ancestors. Yet, in all the years that Kamal had lived in Mbale, he had never once seen Asha, the beautiful and reclusive woman, go near it. Asha was unlike any of the other women in the village. She lived in a small hut at the edge of the forest, away from the others. She never fetched water from the river, never washed her clothes in it, and, most strangely, never let anyone see her bare feet. The village women often whispered about her, calling her a child of the spirits or a cursed one, but no one truly knew her story. Kamal, a young scholar who had returned from the city, was determined to uncover the truth. Kamal had always been drawn to knowledge. While others in the village concerned themselves with farming and trade, he had spent years studying history and folklore in the city. Now that he was back in Mbale, he found himself intrigued by the mystery surrounding Asha. Why did she avoid the river? Why did she always wear long robes that covered her feet? One evening, he sat outside the elder's hut, listening to the whispers of the villagers. They spoke of Asha in hushed tones, warning one another not to get too close to her. "She is not one of us," an old woman muttered. "There is something unnatural about her." Kamal, however, was not convinced. He decided that he would speak to Asha himself. The next morning, Kamal made his way to Asha's hut. It was a modest structure, nestled between towering trees, far from the main village. As he approached, he noticed the way the birds grew silent, as if sensing an unseen presence. Taking a deep breath, he knocked on the wooden door. Asha opened it just enough to peek out, her large, dark eyes studying him warily. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Kamal hesitated, but then smiled. "I am Kamal. I recently returned from the city. I have heard many stories about you, and I wish to know the truth." She narrowed her eyes. "The truth," she echoed. "And what makes you think you are worthy of it?" Kamal was taken aback. "I believe that truth should not be buried under superstition," he replied honestly. "I only seek to understand." Asha stared at him for a long moment before stepping back and allowing him inside. Inside, Asha's hut was neat but sparse. A few clay pots lined the shelves, filled with herbs and strange powders. Kamal's eyes were drawn to a large water jar in the corner. It was different from the ones used in the village, its surface shimmered, as if reflecting unseen waves. "You are curious, Kamal," Asha said, watching him closely. "Curiosity can be dangerous." "I am willing to take that risk," Kamal replied. "Tell me, why do you avoid the river?" Asha tensed. "Because it does not welcome me," she answered cryptically. "And if you value your peace, you will stop asking questions." But Kamal could not stop. The more she resisted, the more determined he became to uncover her past. Kamal left Asha's hut that day more intrigued than ever. She had answered his questions with riddles rather than truth, and her warning only made him more eager to uncover her past. That night, he found himself unable to sleep, his mind filled with thoughts of her. The next evening, as he walked near the river, he spotted Asha standing at the edge of the forest, gazing at him. When he approached, she spoke in a whisper. "If you truly seek answers, meet me here tomorrow at moonrise." Alone. Kamal felt a chill run down his spine, but he nodded. "I will be here." Little did he know, that meeting would change his life forever. Under the light of the full moon, Kamal arrived at the meeting place. The river shimmered like silver under the night sky, and the forest around him was eerily silent. He felt the weight of unseen eyes watching him from the shadows. Then, Asha emerged from the trees, her long robe flowing behind her. "You came," she said softly, a hint of sadness in her voice. "I need to know the truth," Kamal insisted. "Who are you, Asha?" Why do the villagers fear you? Usha hesitated before finally speaking. There are things in this world that should remain hidden, Kamal. If I tell you my truth, you must promise never to speak of it to another soul. I swear it, he said without hesitation. Usha took a deep breath, then slowly lifted the hem of her robe. Kamal's breath caught in his throat as he saw them. Her feet were not human. They were webbed, glistening with the faint sheen of scales. He stumbled back in shock. You are a child of the river, she whispered. A daughter of the waters. Kamal struggles with the knowledge of Usha's true nature while falling deeper in love with her. The villagers grow more suspicious as strange occurrences happen around the river. Fishermen claim to see shadows beneath the water, and the once bountiful fish begin to disappear. Whispers spread that a water spirit walks among them. As their love deepens, the village elders demand answers, and Usha's life is placed in danger. Kamal must choose between protecting the woman he loves or betraying her to his people. When the river itself begins to turn against the village, an ancient force demands payment. Will Kamal and Usha find a way to be together, or will the river reclaim its daughter? The story unfolds with betrayals, sacrifices, and a forbidden romance that threatens to change the village forever. The complete novel develops toward its climactic resolution, revealing the true price of love between a man and a woman who belongs to the water. The moment Kamal saw Usha's webbed feet glistening in the moonlight, his mind struggled to accept what his eyes were witnessing. This was beyond folklore, beyond whispered superstitions. The woman he had been drawn to, the woman who had captivated his every thought, was not entirely human. Usha's expression was unreadable as she slowly lowered the hem of her robe. "This is why I cannot go near the river," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Kamal took a step back, his breath uneven. "But how?" She turned toward the river, gazing at its rippling surface as if it held all the answers. "I was born of the water," she admitted. "But I was cast out. Banished." Kamal's mind raced. Banished. Why? Usha closed her eyes, as if recalling something painful. "Because I broke the law of my kind." Kamal swallowed. "What law?" She hesitated, then turned to face him. "I fell in love with the land." A shiver ran down Kamal's spine. The words felt heavy, final, as if they carried centuries of sorrow within them. "I long to walk on two legs. To breathe air. To live among humans," she continued. "And so the river took away my right to return. It granted me legs, but at a cost. I can never set foot in the water again. If I do, the river will reclaim me." Kamal's heartbeat pounded in his ears. The weight of her secret pressed down on him, but instead of fear, he felt something else. Determination. "Usha," he said, stepping closer. "You don't have to be alone anymore." She looked at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. But before she could respond, a sudden gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying with it an eerie whisper. Usha's face paled. "The river knows," she murmured. Kamal turned toward the water, his stomach tightening. The once calm surface of the river had begun to churn, as if something beneath it was stirring. "We have to go," Usha urged, gripping his wrist. "Now." Kamal didn't hesitate. He followed her into the forest, away from the river's watchful gaze. But he knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning. The villagers of Mbale slept soundly, unaware that something ancient had been awakened in the depths of the river. Kamal and Usha moved swiftly through the forest, their footsteps muffled by the thick leaves beneath them. "We cannot stay near the water anymore," Usha whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "It will keep watching." Kamal's mind was racing, trying to piece together the enormity of what he had learned. Usha was more than human. She was part of something greater, something feared. And now, the river wanted her back. What will happen if the river takes you? Kamal finally asked, his voice hushed. Asha hesitated. I will no longer be myself. Kamal stopped in his tracks. What does that mean? She turned to face him, her expression pained. I will forget everything, my time on land, the life I tried to build. The river will strip me of my memories and return me to what I once was. A creature of the depths, with no past and no future. Kamal's stomach clenched. Then I won't let it take you. Usha smiled sadly. You do not understand, Kamal. The river is not something that can be fought. He reached for her hand. Then we find another way. Usha glanced at their intertwined fingers, but before she could respond, a deep rumble shook the earth beneath them. The river was calling. At dawn, the villagers awoke to a sight that filled them with dread. The waters of the Nika River had risen overnight, creeping dangerously close to the farmlands. The elders gathered near the riverbank, murmuring prayers to the spirits. Elder Mosi, Kamal's uncle, stood at the edge, his wrinkled hands trembling. This has not happened in decades, he said gravely. The spirits are angry, another elder muttered. Something has disturbed the balance. Kamal, hidden among the gathering crowd, clenched his fist. He knew exactly what had disturbed the balance. Usha. And if the village discovered the truth, they would blame her. Kamal found Usha near the forest edge, staring at the rising waters. They will come looking for you, he warned. Usha sighed. I knew this would happen. The river does not forget its own. Kamal stepped closer. We have to leave. We can go beyond the hills, beyond the reach of the river. Usha turned to him, sorrow in her eyes. Kamal, there is no place beyond the river's reach. Kamal refused to accept that. There had to be a way. He had already made his decision, he would protect her, no matter what it cost. But fate had other plans. The village elders wasted no time. As the sun climbed higher, they gathered the people in the marketplace, their voices grave. We have angered the spirits, Elder Mosi declared. And we must make amends before the river consumes us all. The villagers muttered in concern. What must be done? Someone asked. Elder Mosi's gaze darkened. We must find the one who has disturbed the river's peace. Kamal's heart pounded. He could feel the weight of suspicion shifting toward Usha. The woman who never touches the water, someone whispered. The cursed one, another added. Kamal took a step forward. This is madness, he argued. There is no proof. Elder Mosi's eyes narrowed. Then let her prove her innocence. Let her step into the river. A hush fell over the crowd. Kamal turned to Usha, his heart breaking. He knew what would happen if she touched the water. And so did the river. The villagers marched toward Usha's hut. Kamal stood in front of the door, arms spread wide. You will not take her, he said firmly. Jabari, his childhood friend, stepped forward. Kamal, don't be foolish. If she is innocent, then she has nothing to fear. Kamal's jaw clenched. You don't understand. Elder Mosi's voice rang out. Then she will prove it. Usha stepped out of the hut, her face calm. Very well, she said softly. Kamal turned to her in horror. Usha, no. She met his gaze. If I do not go, they will never stop haunting me. Kamal's hands trembled. He wanted to fight for her. To run. But deep down, he knew there was no escape. Usha had made her choice. At the river's edge, the villagers stood in a wide circle, waiting. The water, though still, carried an eerie presence, as if it, too, was holding its breath. Usha stood at the bank, the hem of her robe brushing the wet sand. Step forward, Elder Mosi instructed. Kamal could barely breathe. His hands were clenched into fists, his entire body rigid with dread. Usha lifted her foot. Kamal wanted to scream, to stop her. But it was too late. She placed her foot into the water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the river came alive. A massive wave erupted from the depths, crashing against the shore with unnatural force. The villagers screamed as they stumbled back, falling onto the wet ground. Kamal's breath caught in his throat as he watched in horror. Usha was no longer standing. She was floating, her body suspended in the air above the water, her long robes billowing like waves. Her dark eyes glowed, her hair spread around her like black tendrils. The river had taken her back. Kamal lunged forward, but a powerful current ripped him away, dragging him under. Darkness swallowed him whole. Kamal awoke coughing, his lungs burning as he sputtered water onto the riverbank. The village was in chaos. People screamed, some running for shelter, others staring in terror at the river. Because Asha was still there, but she was no longer the woman they knew. Her form had changed, shifting between human and something else. Scales shimmered along her arms, her webbed feet fully exposed. The river swirled beneath her, obeying her command. And when she spoke, her voice echoed with power. "You tried to take me, but I was never yours to claim." The villagers trembled. Some fell to their knees, murmuring prayers. Elder Mosi stepped forward, his face pale. "What are you?" Usha's glowing gaze shifted to him. "I am what you feared." Kamal staggered to his feet, eyes locked onto her. "Usha," he whispered. Her gaze softened. For a moment, recognition flickered in her eyes. But then, the river surged, pulling her back into its depths. Kamal ran. "No. Usha." But she was already gone. Kamal stood at the riverbank for what felt like eternity. The water had calmed. The storm had passed. But Usha had been taken. Jabari placed a hand on his shoulder. "She is lost to the river." Kamal shook his head. "No. I will find her." The villagers turned away, murmuring amongst themselves. They believed it was over. That the river had claimed its own. But Kamal knew better. Because deep beneath the water, he could still feel her. And he would bring her back. Kamal did not sleep that night. He sat at the riverbank, his fingers digging into the damp earth, staring at the water as if sheer willpower could summon her back. The villagers had long since retreated, fearful and unwilling to speak of what had happened. To them, the river had taken Usha, and there was nothing more to be done. But Kamal refused to accept that. He replayed the moment over and over in his mind, the way Usha had looked at him before she was pulled under, the sorrow in her glowing eyes. She had remembered him. She had still been herself, even as the river tried to reclaim her. That meant there was still hope. Kamal clenched his fist. If no one else would fight for her, then he would. The next morning, he sought out the village's seer, an old woman named Naima who lived on the outskirts of Mail. She was known to possess knowledge of things others dared not speak of, things beyond human understanding. Naima listened in silence as Kamal told her everything. When he finished, she sighed and tossed a handful of bones and shells onto the ground, reading the way they fell. Her weathered face darkened. "She is not lost," she murmured. "But neither is she free." Kamal leaned forward. "What do I have to do?" Naima's gaze met his, heavy with warning. "You must go where no man has ever dared to tread, the heart of the river." Kamal's blood ran cold. He had heard the stories. The heart of the river was a forbidden place, a realm beneath the water where the spirits of the lost resided. No human had ever entered it and returned. But he did not hesitate. "Tell me how to find it." Kamal prepared for his journey at dawn. He packed only what he needed, a pouch of dried meat, a small dagger, and a charm given to him by Naima, woven from river reeds and enchanted for protection. Jabari found him at the river's edge. "You're truly going?" Kamal nodded. "I have to." Jabari exhaled sharply. "Kamal, the river is not kind to those who defy it." Kamal met his friend's gaze. "Neither is love." With that, he stepped into the water. The moment his foot touched the river's surface, a strong current wrapped around his legs and pulled him under. Darkness swallowed him whole. Kamal sank deep into the river's depths, his lungs burning as the weight of the water pressed in around him. But just as panic threatened to take hold, something shifted. He could breathe. The water around him shimmered with an ethereal glow, and when he opened his eyes, he saw a hidden world beneath the river. Strange creatures with luminous scales darted past him, their eyes filled with silent wisdom. Towering coral structures lined the riverbed, pulsing with light. And in the distance, beyond the veil of shifting currents, stood a great gate carved from stone and covered in ancient inscriptions. The entrance to the heart of the river. Kamal swam toward it, his pulse racing. He could feel Usha's presence. She was here. He was close. But before he could reach the gate, a great shadow loomed before him. A creature unlike anything he had ever seen emerged from the depths, its body shifting between human and water, its glowing eyes piercing into him. "You do not belong here," the being intoned, its voice like the crashing of waves. Kamal did not falter. "I have come for Usha." The being studied him for a long moment. Then, it spoke. "Then you will face the trials of the river." The first trial was one of strength. The current suddenly turned against him, swirling into a powerful whirlpool meant to drag him into the abyss. Kamal fought with every ounce of strength, pushing against the pull of the water. His muscles screamed in protest, but he refused to be swept away. For Usha. With a final surge of willpower, he broke free. The currents calmed, and the being nodded in approval. "The second trial is one of truth," it said. The water shifted, forming illusions around Kamal. He saw Asha, standing on the shore, her dark eyes pleading. "Go home, Kamal," she whispered. "Forget me." His heart clenched. It felt so real. But he knew the truth. "This is a lie," he said firmly. "Asha would never ask me to leave her." The illusion shattered, and the being's eyes gleamed with something akin to respect. "The final trial," it murmured, "is one of sacrifice." The water rippled, revealing a vision of the future. Kamal saw himself standing on the riverbank, alone. He saw Asha beneath the water, her face peaceful but distant. A voice echoed in his mind. "One of you must stay. The river demands balance." Kamal's heart pounded. He understood what was being asked. If he took Asha back, he would have to stay in her place. It was a price he was willing to pay. "I accept," he whispered. The river stirred. The stone gate opened. And Kamal stepped inside. Asha was waiting for him. She stood in the center of an ethereal pool, her dark hair floating around her, her body glowing with the light of the river's power. Her eyes widened as she saw him. "Kamal." He rushed forward, pulling her into his arms. "I found you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You shouldn't have come." Kamal smiled. "You should know by now, I would follow you anywhere." The water trembled around them. The spirits were watching. A voice, deep and ancient, filled the chamber. "You have defied the river's will, Kamal. But love is a force we cannot break." The currents shifted. The water calmed. "For the first time, the river shall grant mercy." Asha gasped, gripping Kamal's hands. "Kamal, they are letting us go." He exhaled shakily. "Together." She nodded, smiling through her tears. "Together." The water began to rise, lifting them toward the surface. As they broke through the river's surface, the sky was alight with the morning sun. The village, once filled with fear, now stood in stunned silence. Usha and Kamal had returned. Hand in hand. The villagers no longer whispered about Usha. The river had spoken, and its judgment was final. She was not a curse. She was a daughter of the waters, and she had chosen her place among them. Kamal had defied fate, and in doing so, he had rewritten it. Together, they built a life, not apart from the river, but beside it, in harmony. The water had taken. But it had also given. And in the end, love had won.